Never trust a guy with two first names. But here we go.
My name is Jake Scott, and I'm an infectious diseases physician at Stanford. I've spent my career...
He's an infectious disease researcher at Stanford.
...treating patients and evaluating medical evidence with a focus on vaccine and efficacy. I have no financial conflicts of interest. My vaccine is either self-funded or supported by Stanford University. Since April, I've co-led an international team building what we believe is the most comprehensive database of ever assembled.
And believe me, this guy's got a conflict of interest somewhere. I don't trust this guy because he's lying right now. His whole study's a lie. And when he says I don't have any conflict of interest, I doubt that. I highly, that is suspect. What?
Bill Gates told us it would be bad to do placebo studies. That's why we don't have them. So he's saying they exist? This is a crisis.
He's saying they exist. Listen to what he says. He's saying that they've done 600 placebo tests on... Listen.
We set out to answer a fundamental question. What does the complete trial record actually show about vaccine? We've cataloged 1,088 randomized control trials from 1941 to 2025, involving over 10.5 million participants. Every entry is publicly verifiable through PubMed links. The entire database is openly accessible. Anyone with internet access can verify our findings. This is what transparency looks like. Our findings directly refute false claims about vaccine. We documented 661 trials using inert placebo controls, saline, sterile water, or other biologically inactive substances.
So he just said we identified 661 placebo-controlled trials. That's what he's saying. Placebo, like saline solution, salt water, and something inert. Inert means that if you put this thing into your body, it doesn't create a reaction.
Of these, 503 involved antigens that routine childhood vaccine. Most importantly, we confirmed that all 16 antigens routinely recommended for children have been studied in placebo-controlled trials. Every single one. The claim that childhood vaccine has been tested against placebos is demonstrably false.
So when he says demonstrably false...
My name is Jake Scott, and I'm an infectious diseases physician at Stanford.
Oh, shit. So when he says demonstrably false, you have to demonstrate what that falsity is. You can't just say so. That's like saying something's unequivocally false. And when you get your translator ring out, what do you know? Turns out, no, everything's true. So when he says demonstrably false... That's like saying unequivocally false. Turns out it's true because here comes Aaron Kennedy. No, he's going to get completely corrected. Let's watch this. When that guy was presenting volumes of studies they compiled, I was confused, thinking I had never heard of any of these studies with a true saline placebo for the childhood shots. It took Aaron Siri only a few minutes to show exactly what shell games that guy was playing. I only have a master's in science, so it's mind-blowing that a doctor, that guy, at Stanford would so arrogantly present this testimony as scientific evidence in support of extensive safety and efficacy testing of childhood. If I had given this presentation in one of my classes at Tufts University, my professor would have given me an F and questioned whether I actually understood how to do appropriate research. So here it is. Here's Aaron Siri going to completely destroy that guy. Watch this.
Mr. Scott, how much do you know about the mRNA technology?
Oh,
a fair amount.
So,
wait a minute. Wrong. Oh, hold on. Over to Steph.
All right. Kathy Looney, thank you very much. It's me.
Here it is.
Oh, back to Jim.
But, Mr. Siri, I'd like you to go to your section and talk about the 661 studies that Dr. Scott is talking about in terms of these inert placebo controls. And just describe that in detail. I think it's interesting.
Sure. Actually, I think Dr. Scott has done a great service in terms of pointing out the lack of clinical trials supporting the safety of the routine injected childhood. You see, he's saying there are 661 inert controlled trials to support the safety of the routine injected childhood vaccine. But when you actually drill down into those 661 trials, let me give you the breakdown of them, okay? 567 of these trials were not a routine injected vaccine in the CDC childhood schedule. They were for HIV or other vaccines.
So he's pretending that these were trials for the vaccine on the childhood schedule, And he's telling you over 500 of them were not. They were not for that. So that guy's just lying. Okay, keep going.
So totally irrelevant to the safety of routine injected childhood vaccine.
So the studies that this guy's quoting, that Dr. Jake Scott, that they're completely irrelevant to the schedule for children. Completely.
The remaining 94 studies, 70 of them did not involve healthy children. For example, trials of HIV-positive adults. Again, completely irrelevant to the safety of childhood. Of the remaining 24, 21 did not involve a U.S. licensed vaccine or was not a vaccine to license a currently used U.S. licensed vaccine.
So that leaves 3 studies. So out of all those 661 studies, you could eliminate all of them because they have nothing to do with the childhood vaccine, except for 3, and he's going to get to that.
Chinese flu shots, stuff like that. That leaves us with 3 studies, 3 that were claimed to have a inert control that were relied upon to license the routine injected childhood vaccine list of 661. And these actually help really highlight the problem we have in terms of assessing safety with regards to the licensure of childhood vaccine clinical trial data. I need it for my practice. Okay, let me walk through those 3. One was a trial for the chickenpox vaccine. That trial had, it was only a few hundred people, so it was underpowered anyway. But Dr. Scott says it's got an inert control, but actually it was an injection of neomycin, an antibiotic. That's not inert.
So one of the 3 studies left was about chickenpox. They didn't use something inert, meaning a placebo. They used whatever he just said that thing was, which was an inert.
And neomycin used topically can cause issues, let alone injected. The second one was Gardasil 4 trial, which had thousands and thousands of girls and women in the control group. Almost all of them got an aluminum adjuvant injection. And then there were a few hundred, only a few hundred, that were labeled as a inert control, but they weren't. They got everything that's in the vial except for the antigens in the alum, which included L-histidine, sorbate 80, sodium borate, yeast protein, not inert. And then the third one was a Gardasil 9 trial, which finally, by the way, did have a saline injection, just a few hundred. There were thousands and thousands of girls, women in that trial. They all got an injection of aluminum adjuvant, which I don't even know if it's ethical to inject somebody with something that's neuro and cytotoxic, but leaving that aside, the few hundred that got the placebo, but they only got it if they first got 3 doses of Gardasil 4. So again, not an actual inert control group.
So none of them were what they call inert. Inert meaning like a placebo. So if they put this in your body like saline solution, it creates no reaction. That's what they mean by inert. But he's saying, no, they're all have all these inert they have all these chemicals that are not inert, that actually do affect you, that do create reactions. That's what he's saying. So all these guys' studies, he completely just wiped it out. Completely. It was all garbage. Financial? His 661 studies going back from 1941 to 2025, none of them have anything to do with what he claims they have something to do with. That's according to this guy who knows more about this than even the godfather of... Because if you ever seen him, he did a 9-hour deposition with the guy who's the godfather of... And he destroyed him. It's on YouTube. You could go watch it. It's 9 hours. It's amazing to watch him destroy the guy who's the godfather of... Aaron Siri did that because he knows more about it than them. And he knows more about these studies than the guy who just lied to you about him.
Jimmy, wait, the result is no financial conflicts of interest?
That's what that doctor?
Is he like, does he party with Fauci? Like, there's got to be some...
Of course there's
something. Why would he come in
of course.
with something that weak?
0 trials, 0, which were relied upon in this list of 61 to license a routine injected CDC schedule that included a placebo, as well as 0 trials of a control to license a routine injected schedule.
So 0 trials. This guy was presenting at 661, actually 0.
You're a little bit off.
Ironically, by the way, I mean, this list supports the opposite of what it pretends to do. And if you want to know what was relied upon to license routine injected childhood vaccine, look at the clinical trial documents. That's what we do. And in fact, my submission to this committee went through every single, that's a routine injected vaccine, precisely what the control was. Now, I'll just point out one quick thing here too, is that the CNN fact-checked Secretary Kennedy's claim that there is no routine injected childhood vaccine based on a placebo-controlled trial, and it relied on Dr. Scott's list, which at the time had about 248 trials listed as being inert. Secretary Kennedy then did exactly the analysis I did, put it out in a tweet, took it apart. Not one of those was relied upon to license a routine injected childhood, or was it used as a control to license routine injected childhood. And then after that, apparently, somebody then scrambled all the RCT numbers for those 248. I mean, so you can't match it up with the secretary's tweet. And I guess to bury that issue, just added hundreds more, hoping that it can just hide behind this mountain of trials. But when you look at it carefully, it does not support the safety. In fact, it points out, it shows exactly the lack of safety. What's critical is this. Look, if you want to know the safety of stuff, when parents call us, say, my child got XYZ issue after event, you need trials that are, one, properly controlled, which means either they got to get an inert substance or another license based on a robust trial. And then even if it has a proper control, it still needs to review safety long enough. And then even if it has a proper an error control and it reviews long enough, it then still needs to be properly powered. It needs all three to be a proper, valid clinical trial. Now, I can tell you, there's not a single routine injected childhood event.
So he's saying you have to have an inert ingredient, a placebo. You have to have the proper length of time to study it. And it has to be high-powered. I mean, you have to have enough participants in the control group to reach a significant statistical conclusion. That's what he's saying. So that's what you need for all three. You don't have any of them. And so that guy said he didn't have a conflict of interest. Isn't it weird that a guy doesn't have a conflict of interest, yet everything he said was false? Isn't that wild? He doesn't have a conflict of interest, but every single thing he said was false.
On the schedule that meets those criteria.
So, and just to show you how bad this guy is, this is a businessman from Wisconsin, Senator Johnson, who knows more about the mRNA than this guy testifying. Do you want me to prove it to you? Here it is.
Mr. Scott, how much do you know about the mRNA technology?
A fair amount.
A fair amount.
So is the mRNA that's encapsulating the lipid nanoparticle, is that true mRNA?
Is it true mRNA?
I mean, true mRNA, your messenger RNA, degrades very rapidly in the body. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Correct.
So the mRNA in the injection, is it true mRNA? Does it degrade rapidly in the body? Do you not know?
I do know. Yes, it does. But
it doesn't.
He says it does. It says it. He's saying the mRNA, when you get it, mRNA, it rapidly diminishes in your body. That's what he just said. Turns out that's not true. Let's listen to Senator Johnson.
No, it does not. It's modified. It's modified mRNA, and it's designed not to degrade. And there are studies that show it sticks around the body. We don't know how long.
There was a Yale study recently that showed that people were still making spike protein 600, 700 days after their last injection.
Get your booster.
The lipid nanoparticle, do you realize that it was designed to permeate difficult to permeate barriers, like the blood-brain, like the placenta barrier? Did you know that? Did you believe when Fauci told us that the mRNA shot would stay in the arm? Did you believe that?
So remember when they said when you get the shot, it stays in your arm? That was a lie. I reported that here. People attacked me for months over that. Said how crazy I am. No, now we know it goes through all your whole body. And that lipid nanoparticles can breach the blood-brain barrier.
It's a simple yes or no. I mean, do you believe the code injection stayed in everybody's arm? Do you believe that's what happened?
Primarily.
You think so, huh? Were you aware of the Japanese FOIA of the study that was conducted of biodistribution where in rats it biodistributed all over the body, accumulated in the adrenal glands, in the ovaries? Because the lipid nanoparticle is designed to permeate difficult to permeate barriers, they knew, the designers knew, and they did a study that would biodistribute all over the body, but our CDC, Anthony Fauci, said it was going to stick in the arm. Now, do you know what the mRNA does? It's not a traditional vaccine. Do you realize that? It's not an attempt.
This guy can't answer any questions. Isn't it amazing? It's like watching a kid being grilled by their principal.
Anyway, or a dead virus. It's messenger RNA, modified RNA, this encapsulated lipid nanoparticle. It distributes all over the body, and when it attaches to a cell, it unloads its mRNA into the cell, and it turns the cell into a manufacturing cell of a protein that is toxic to it. Do you realize that? Are you aware of that? I mean, just yes or no. I mean, do you know that or not? Because I talk to a lot of doctors who don't have a clue.
So I guess that doctor, I don't even know why he showed up. Did he think nobody was going to ask him anything after he laid out his amazing credentials? I work at Stanford. Did he not think someone? So there's a guy who knows way more about the mRNA than he does.
In fairness, it was transparent how much he was lying.
It was transparent.
Got not one thing right.
I like this. Robert Heitner says Dr. Jake Scott is an infectious disease doctor, professor at Stanford University Medical School, and pushes the by combating misinformation on the internet, but knows far less about the than a businessman from Wisconsin. Yeah, there's another expert, ladies and gentlemen, testifying in front of Congress. That's another expert who knows less about the than a businessman from Wisconsin. That's your expert.
Yeah. He hasn't gotten the bullet points. It's like an ad read. His job is memorizing the bullet points you should hit in an ad read and nothing more than that.
So anyway, that was fun. Stuff like this is happening this week in Congress. There's these hearings. MAHA has released their advisory paper. And looks like RFK has found a way to make it hard for Big Pharma to advertise on TV. We're going to get to that story next.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like it. Fingers crossed. And if you'd like to hear me make fun of these, I'll see you in Chicago this weekend, Louisville, Fort Wayne, Hermosa Beach, California, Sacramento, and San Francisco. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Over stuff.
All right, let's see here. The U.S. is waging a covert war, world war. Venezuela, Ukraine, Georgia, Finland, Gaza, Syria, Iran, North Korea, Nepal, Indonesia, Nepal, Taiwan, South China Sea. It's me. Thank you. BB to Trump, what you gonna do about it, bitch? Nothing. That's what. P. Walker. Ben Shapiro said Israel doesn't need our billions. Kathy Looney. All right, Mary Marr, Colin Walker. Thank you very much, Colin Walker. If God gets Charlie today, then I hope the universe balances out and Satan gets blank and blank later this week. All right, Colin.
Okay.
Thank you. Back to Jimmy.
So it looks like RFK is trying to find a way to make it harder for Big Pharma to advertise directly to people on television. And the reason why Big Pharma advertises, they're not actually trying to sell you drugs. I know that sounds funny. What they're actually doing is they're giving all this money to cable news shows so that they can control them. So then 70% of their revenue comes from Big Pharma. So now they have to report lies because that's where their bread is buttered. That's where they get all their money from. It's how it works. Big Pharma, that's called corruption. Big Pharma has to list all the side effects now in their pharma ads. RFK Jr. says this will now force pharma companies to decide if they want to run a 4-minute ad or not. This is mission accomplished. This is from MJ Truth Ultra. This is the next best thing next to banning the pharma's commercials completely from television, which RFK has said he's working on doing, but it's going to require the Supreme Court. Because in 1976, there was a Supreme Court case that effectively protected pharmaceutical advertisements on TV as free speech. It is in the Virginia State Board versus Pharmacy versus Virginia State Consumer Council. This case established a precedent for protecting pharmaceutical ads as a form of commercial speech, provided they are truthful and not misleading. Until there are new established ruling, what RFK Jr. just did is monumental. So let's listen to what he says.
The president just signed an executive order making some news here when it comes to pharmaceutical ads.
The president just signed an executive order that's an historic change in the way that pharmaceutical advertising is done on television. And the order basically reinstates or gives us now the opportunity to reinstate the 1997 rules. Prior to 1997, pharmaceutical advertisers were required to put all the side effects on their ads. Many of them didn't advertise because it lengthened because of what it did to the length of the advertising. And that the removal of that requirement in 1997 FDA changed the rule to allow them to report the side effects on a website or on a telephone. And they only had to report a few of them on television. And that triggered a proliferation of these ads. There's only 2 countries in the world that allowed direct-to-consumer advertising by pharmaceutical companies on television. We're one of those countries. New Zealand is the other. It's had a disastrous impact on human health, on people's relationships with their doctors, and really on the entire gestalt where Americans are led to believe that there's a pill for every ill, and that you don't have to exercise, you don't have to pay attention to your diet. Whatever goes wrong with you, you can fix with a drug.
So how much does this change the dynamic for pharmaceutical companies that have been advertising on all kinds of channels and even online? They're going to have to do a lot more specifically.
They're going to have to report all their side effects. In some cases, that might create an advertisement that's 4 minutes long. Back prior to 1997, advertising in magazines had page after page after side effects reported. And so we don't know exactly what it will do, but we know it's going to be better for the health of Americans.
It's significant.
So I think, again, the bright spot in the Trump administration is right here. RFK is getting it done. It's not as fast as some people want, but it's in the right direction for the first time in my life. We're going in the right direction. So he's found a way to make it harder for Big Pharma to advertise, and Donald Trump signed that executive order.
Jimmy, I had no idea. I thought 97 is when they legalized.
That's what I thought. I thought 90.
All they did.
Yeah, I thought in 97 is when they legalized the direct-to-consumer advertising by Big Pharma. But according to RFK, who's the HHS secretary, no, in 97, what they did was they said, you don't have to list all the side effects. So that's when the explosion of Big Pharma commercials happened, because they didn't have to do that anymore. They had to list,
afford the ad time if they listed all the side effects.
Wow. So this is great news. So as this is what they say, this is the next best thing to banning them completely. This is the next best thing. So they're doing it, because I guess he's going to need the Supreme Court to get him banned completely. So this is great news. Again, good on RFK Jr. He's actually trying to do something, and he's got all the forces of capitalism against him and all the bought pieces of garbage like Bernie Sanders, who is a garbage human being. I cannot say it loud enough or enough. Bernie Sanders.
Everyone's corrupt but you.
He is, what's that?
Everyone is corrupt but you.
Everybody's corrupt but you. Yes.
Especially you, Bernie.
Especially you, Bernie. You corrupt piece of it. Okay. If you like to hear my jokes on pharmaceuticals, come see me in Chicago, Rosemont, Louisville, Fort Wayne, Hermosa Beach, Sacramento, and San Francisco. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Over to Steph.
All right. 10 minutes after the attack, literal adding insult to injury, stoop sign. I think a vaccinated guy is gradually getting closer to the goal of successfully getting under Kurt's skin. The guy's relentless, JT. What's your favorite berry minus huckleberry? Kerps is berry Manilow, unvaccinated guy. All right.
I mean, you're dating yourself with these references. I
Roofer. Ardeen, serious question. Was the value of a prayer when it comes from a genocide denying Zionist?
Okay.
Back to Jimmy.